talk about? We've got JSN on here on the board. There's chatter about JSN potentially being Eagles are doing some work. A few reporters have talked about in the last few days. Personally, my opinion straight off the bat here is they're not going to be going near JSN in the first round. That's my personal opinion. But I'm interested in yours, Gail. Do you think the Eagles could go? Could they go Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and JSN, and just be like, just try and blow every single defense out of the water?
He's been a contingency plan for me in my mindset. We've actually brought him up on our podcast in terms of what prospects are move back prospects. He was one of those guys. Did enough watching of tape, did enough scouting, his interviews. I think he's a very competitive guy in a room that had legendary dudes like Garrett Wilson. That wide receiver group called JSN the best of the group. In terms of the leader, Steve Smith said that he has a route running degree in route running, a PhD, matter of fact. So in terms of if you're going to move back and make it make sense, that's the best trio, one of the best trios in the NFL. You have a wide receiver 3 who can play inside and out. Everyone's calling him slot guy, but he can work on the outside. He said he ran slot because that's the only way he could get on the field with all the wide receivers they had in the mix. That's a wide receiver 3 who tells stories with his routes versus a Quez who's a run-on sentence.
Do you spend a first round pick on a wide receiver 3 though?
Well, we're talking about value of the board. Like if you see him as the best on the board, your best player available, I'm not pigeonholing yourself into picking a position. I'm picking the best guy, and I think
which how he likes to do.
He talking about CB3 on him. That's a mismatch all day. He knows how to get open. He's very nuanced route runner. He's the kind of guy who is the quarterback's best friend. He's the kind of guy who can run a 10-yard route, 9 yards, or 11 yards, but he's creative enough to get back in the eyesight of the quarterback. That's invaluable. So I think the way that he is made up, I think he's a yak guy and very impressive.
What's his pace like? I mean, I think if you look at AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, they're both 4.9 guys. 4.49. I mean, sorry.
Oh yeah, he's probably like a 4.5 guy.
So he's similar.
Yeah, a little. Everyone's calling him slower.
A little slower.
The way that he creates separation with his routes, this is what we're talking about. Yeah. He compared to a Quez. I'm not killing Quez.
He's a fifth round pick, right? Sixth round pick.
This is the difference between first and if you can separate with route running and not actual speed. It's a big story. I mean, big difference.
I mean, I'm completely not all in on that, but I completely get your reasoning. Completely get. I just wouldn't do it myself. Would you, Mick? Phil?
I think it's sort of a smokescreen for leverage. I think for the draft pick more than I think looking at
because 10 is. I think 10 is a obvious position where any team behind us, that is the target for. If we need to jump up in the draft, we know how he's willing to move down or listen to any various trade. We're in the perfect position for Paris Johnson, Skoronski lovers out there, those teams that want those, potential tackles or guard tackle versatility, whatever. Those two guys are sitting there. If you're wanting a wide receiver, JSN is there. If you're wanting Bijan, 10 is for the taking. We'll move down, and then you have to start
on that scenario. You got JSN there, you got Bijan on there. Who you picking?
Bijan would be and again, I'm not running back in the first dude. No. But I think he's worthy of.
But that's it. I mean, if you're going to go wide receiver or running back with the needs of the team and the current talent we have on in the wide receiver position and the elite offensive line we have for a running back position, that's a luxury pick at 10 if you're going to go wide receiver or running back. So you have to think of it as, okay, it's a luxury pick. We're going all in to make this offense just absolutely ridiculous. This got to be all right if you're going to do that.
I mean, it would be amazing. I mean, like I've lost sleep over this, guys. I wake up and I'm like, Bijan, because it's like, again, I'm always like, I know you were drinking wine earlier on the podcast. You could go Chardonnay from UCLA.
Still am, but it's
Chardonnay from
Chardonnay from I like that.
He's a dude that. I mean, there's Gibbs later from Alabama.
I like Gibbs.
I could go Tyjae Spears from Tulane later on day 3 or earlier.
He's one of your guys, isn't he?
Yeah, he's one of my guys. I like Tyjae.
I mean, you can go a Banacanda later from Pitt.
Go for
Bigsby.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was going to say, like, Gail mentioned about waking up and shouting out Bijan in the middle of the night. I no word of a lie. I literally woke up this morning and I had a dream that I think I was sat in a car with Bijan, and it was just after the Eagles had drafted him. And I have no idea.
I hope it wasn't you, Bijan, and Jalen Carter, because that would have been a bit of a nightmare.
We're seeing.
That would have been a wet dream, yeah.
Oh, all right.
See, Jalen Carter that's another topic of conversation. That is like,
absolutely.
That is set it and forget it.
Absolutely. Mick, JSN, you taking him if he's let's say you drop back from 10 to 14, 15, you pick up JSN. You happy with that?
It's just the how lethal the offense would be with this sort of guy would be insane. So that it would be something to get excited about. I've spoken about it last week, I think, on the podcast with Zari. I said, I feel like the quality of wide receiver in this draft isn't great. And there's quite a big gap between JSN and, like Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers and just Quentin Johnson from TCU. I think JSN's probably head and shoulders the best for me. And if the Eagles were managed to pick him up, that's huge. And it would be so fun to watch as well, because let's face it, we watch these games to have some fun, to see us put points on the board. If we take another tackle, yeah, that's a smart move, but it's not exciting.
Let's see, if you go on the same tackle, the whole Paris Johnson Jr.
He's my guy, Gail. He's my guy.
Is he? Okay.
That's who I want.
I mean, he's got 13 starts at right guard. He's got 13 starts at left tackle. The man speaks Mandarin fluently. He's
really valuable asset.
Great in the locker room.
Level of intelligence. Yeah.
He's a guy that I feel like if Stoutland, who was at the combine running the.
I said this exact thing. He was running the drills.
He was there.
And you saw when Paris Johnson was there, he was like, "Great job, Paris, great job!" You could just see it. And like there's a couple of other tackles. Skoronsky was there, and I think he told Skoronsky to go back and do something once or twice. And Broderick Jones, he was like, "Well done, Broderick, but go back and do that a couple of times." Paris Johnson, like you could just tell he was like, "Yeah, brilliant, well done, Paris."
Got a mean streak in him too. He'll definitely take your lunch money, and but I just
chance stopping him, to be honest, if he tried.
Comes from NFL bloodlines. I believe his dad was a safety, got drafted. I just think I don't know, man. Like if we're gonna have to, again, he was my guy. Like if we wanted to move back and still take a lineman who had some versatility, and then you could think about the life after Lane situation. He's marinating in a locker room full of the talent that's in there. I mean,
Perfect.
And we talked about how we talked about on one of his podcasts or with Kelsey
on New Heights, yeah.
About this offensive line group is actually that's kind of like the lifeblood of this team is the offensive line unit, and bringing a guy in like that again, it's part of Stoutland University, guys.
Let him split reps with Jurgens at right guard next year. Let him learn the right tackle position under Lane Johnson. Let Jurgens move to center, take over the right guard position until Lane's gone, and then if you're able to adapt to right tackle, move in there. I mean,
swing tackle is serious. People don't realize that the production when Lane Johnson stepped off the field was like what I mean. It's a real thing.
It just goes to show to me that, like, going back to the very start of the pod, we obviously said like the reason this draft is so exciting is because the Eagles just have almost limitless options, and that's the beauty of it. Is that Howie? That's almost like prime Howie territory, which is knowing that everyone wants him and he doesn't need anybody, and I think that's the perfect place to be. And I think it's just so exciting. Like if they take Paris Johnson, no one's going to complain. If they take a defensive lineman, no one's going to complain. If they take Bijan, no one's going to complain.
I think people will complain if we take Bijan. I think they will.
But I think the majority, there's so many people that will just like, I just want Bijan. Tell me,
I get it.
Tell me the second round running back.
I want to watch him. I want to watch him in the Eagles. It's as close to Saquon Barkley when Saquon Barkley came out of the draft. That's the closest.
I was being overly sort of like generalization, but what I mean is that whoever they take, there's not going to be like seeing the videos today. I think Kendall Beck posted a video of him watching the Jalen Hurts pick, 3 years ago today. This was my reaction, and there's not going to be that kind of reaction.
Bijan?
No. Well, to any player or any type of player, because there's so many.
The Eagles fan base. Yeah.
The Eagles fan base reaction to Jalen Hurts pick, present company included, we all reacted not in a positive way.
It was confusing times though. Like we didn't know the backstory. We didn't know.
No one here thought Jalen Hurts was going to go take over the quarterback job from Carson Wentz when he was drafted. When he was drafted.
We dropped all that money on Carson. That was the issue.
Exactly.
So we're going to be happy when Hendon Hooker goes at 30 then?
Oh.
No. I think it's more of the case that no one's going to be sort of burning the place down with whatever pick because there's so many different options. There's enough.
I think you're giving way too much respect for the Eagles fan base there.
I generally don't believe that. I think this draft with the options there are, I think there's enough for everybody likes nearly every option out there. There's not like oh my god, please do not. I mean, Luke Van Ness for Mick is probably the only one I've heard.
Van Ness that'd be.
Everyone is.
And I know, you spoke about when you voiced your disgust at Luke Van Ness. Have you not, Gail?
Yeah, I'm just kind of like at 10. I'm not developing at 10. I'm like if I'm moving back in, again, but it's just weird because there's a lot of outliers in this draft too. Like Elijah Cansey, smaller, toolsy, explosive, 280. There's Nolan Smith.
I like Nolan.
Fastball off the edge, 4.39, but it's like what 2.39,
2.40, yeah, 2.38, 2.39, yeah.
But I could go situational pass rusher.
Of the three, I would go him personally. Yeah.
And then people are like, "Oh, you're Nolan Smith stan because of the combine," but his behind the scenes, he's a damn leader, bro. He's super. He was one of those guys that led the charge at Georgia. So, Georgia Bulldog connection. I love that. I love
Mick loves his Georgia boys. Not just the general.